Yeah,
Moin.
that's fine. Yeah, 30 minutes. Yeah. Okay, we have started the live. Thank you.
So, everybody, what if I was to tell you that every story you hear rewires the brain? Sometimes in minutes. So powerful is this storytelling. Hello, my name is Callum Morrison, and I'm a management consultant who's found his way into academia. And we are, again, part of Creativity Café Live. And today we're stepping into the extraordinary world of neuroscience. That is neuroscience where it meets storytelling. It's a hidden space where stories reshape emotions, the memory, behavior, even the identity. To guide us through this mind bending journey, we have with us today, as always, Dr. Moin, global researcher, leadership thinker, and author of Storytelling in Marketing and Brand Communications, as well as the book, The Melody of Leadership. Now, in his book, Storytelling in Marketing and Brand Communications, there is a chapter, Tango of the Brain, which has been widely cited for explaining how stories trigger chemical, emotional, cognitive changes inside the human mind. Just for a moment, think of that. Think of the power we are discussing today and what changes that could bring. Think of the changes it could bring to you. So, Dr. Moen, welcome back to the show. And I'm going to be very prescriptive today because we're in the realm of science. And consequently, I'm going to ask a series of questions in order that our audience can get the information they require. So my first question: in your book, you named the chapter "Tango of the Brain." What does that mean? I mean, why the word tango, a dance, an Argentinian dance? Why the word tango? What's happening inside the brain when we hear a story?
Okay, Kalam, thank you very much actually for your kind introduction. First of all, I will try my best to keep the question answer as short as possible, and possibly wait for the other questions as well. This particular question has got answer that covers the whole chapter, but let's start briefly. So you said that it's an Argentinian dance. So that means when you tell a story, there is a dance in our brain, and also the dance between the brains of the storytellers and a story listener. Because a story engages the brain like a synchronized dance. And what happens? Multiple neural systems fire together: emotions, logic, imagination, memory. So we are connected, we feel connected. It also highlights the interplay between the left brain and the right brain and the way they processes information. This pretty much work like a dance. Then a story creates a rhythmic neurological pattern. So you can see that there is tension, then there is curiosity and empathy. What happened next? Can my hero achieve the desire? And so on and so forth. And then resolution. So, all these things actually, metaphorically, I wanted to call it a dance. And I found that tango of the brain is a good metaphor to put it into the context.
Okay. Okay. So I think a dance is a great metaphor, really, because it requires coordination, interpretation, engagement. It's physical, it's mental, it's emotional. So I think it's a great metaphor. So congratulations on choosing a good one. So question two, marketers today face saturation, distraction, and emotional numbness. How can storytelling help them overcome these modern challenges?
That's a
Is
very,
there
very
real, well, let me just finish the question because I think there's a few more elements we need to pull it together here. Is there real multidisciplinary evidence behind this?
oh, fantastic. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, now the question is more kind of grounded, and so thank you very much for bringing this question. Obviously, first of all, we marketers are facing challenges. That is how to cut through the noises, because two of the research that I can cite, one of them came in Hook Point. It's written by Brandon Kane. He is also the author of 1 million followers, and where he showed that actually he created 1 million followers in a month. So that's amazing. So he's saying that 6 billion messages sent out on digital platform each day. So you can understand that so much messages and how marketers can break through these noises. That's one thing. Again, there is another academic research that says that if we are alive until 65 up to 65 years, then we will expect to see 2 million brand messages. That means 8 hours we are watching the brand messages, 7 days a week, and 6 continuous years. So you can understand the volume that the kind of messages we are getting. So the question is how to break through the messages and connect with the customer. And there, the storytelling matters. So if the brand can tell good story, they can actually connect with customers' hearts and minds, because storytelling not only fits into the brain, but it also sticks with the brain. So human brain prefers narrative over data. Jennifer Aker, who is a professor at the Stanford University, she found that when you tell a story, it is 22 times more memorable than when you give facts. Same thing has been echoed by the research of Professor Jonah Baga from Wharton Business School. And he has also brought the research that shows that how storytelling influences our brain and why it is so powerful, and why marketers need to use storytelling to cut through the noises. Now, you mentioned another aspect, which is that is there an evidence from multidiscipline? So let's come one by one. First of all, psychology says that stories improve attention, empathy, and recall. That was the very initial understanding, because those were the psychological research. But now we can see that neuroscience can find out what happens into our brain. And neuroscience today says that a story or narrative activities that activate more brain regions than fact alone. So that means if you tell a story, the brain is activated more, and it works better. So the brain between the teller and the listener connects better. Then come to the behavioral science. Behavioral science says that emotions drives decision, not the rational analysis. And Aristotle, long time before, said that a story actually transfer logic wrapped with emotion. So it's more powerful, because emotion is one of the element of a storytelling. Now come to marketing, another discipline. So marketing research shows that storytelling cuts through the noise and build mental connections, because it helps the audience to relate the brand or brand story with their life story. So that is, in a nutshell, the answer to your question.
Okay. So it's psychological, it's neuroscience, it's cognitive science, but the one thing I think that one might observe at this stage is it brings into question the way that we've all been educated today. In as
Yes.
much as certainly in the industrial age, for which there is a legacy even today, particularly in some educational systems, there is an emphasis on facts, when in fact we should be telling stories as vehicles to communicate things rather than simply getting people to learn facts or even focus on the facts. Okay, so let's dive a little bit further in if we can. Let's specifically dive into some of those core storytelling principles. You talk about storyfying communications, I think that's the phrase.
Yeah.
And the history-making mind, another phrase.
A story making mind, actually. So, sorry, yeah, probably you might, a story making mind.
Okay, so sorry about that. So, storyfying communications and story-making mind. Can you explain these principles using
Yeah.
the memory principle?
Okay, yeah, that's fantastic, Kalam. That's a fantastic question. But I needed to actually touch upon something you pronounced actually before asking the question, which is very powerful. So you said that we should actually give facts using a story as a vehicle. So yeah, you are absolutely right. This is what Professor Jonah Berger from Wharton Business School said, that you should consider that a story is your wooden horse, and he brought the incident of the Trojan War, where they used the wooden horse, and inside the horse there was army, and it was taken inside, and how it worked. So yeah, from that perspective, your statement is very powerful. So now let's talk about a storyfying communication. A storyfying communication is exactly what you said, that we pass the fact or we pass the message, but wrapped in emotion. So what we do, we communicate information, but in a narrative form. So we use the principles of a storytelling, and thus we communicate the message. Very simple way, I'm just telling you. So why we do that? Because human beings, they remember meaning and emotion, and they also connect with meaning and emotion better than isolated facts. Let's come to the story making mind. So what is a story making mind? So we sense of the world not through facts but through stories. That's why somebody said that one of the American poets says that people might say that the world is made of atoms, but actually this is made of stories. So we interpret life by creating personal narrative. So what's happening around us, the facts, the events, we connect the dots and make meaning. And this is what is the way we understand this thing. And the way we do this thing in our brain, that is what is called story making minds. So story making minds not only take a story that fits into our mind, but also sticks with our mind and also connect the brains. That we can also talk with other principles. So the memory principle is it's vivid. Emotional stories become long-term memories. So that means we not only store the facts or the events that happen to us in the form of a story, and then we also bring it to our mind when we want to remember in a way in the form of stories. So that is what is the answer to your question.
Okay, I'm just letting that rest with me for a few seconds. So another principle that you speak of is the mirroring principle. So we have a mirror, and we have a brain, and we have a memory from a story. How could you sort of elaborate on this mirroring principle and how it influences us following this telling of a story?
Yeah, so that's another interesting principles actually, but let me explain it in a simple way. So mirroring principles is the word mirroring. So we mirror with another person. So when somebody tells a story, so we can mirror, our brain can mirror with their brain. So in other words, it's like when we hear a story, or when someone hears a story, the listener's brain mirrors the storyteller's experience. So when you are telling a story, you are feeling like, you are excited. And neurosciences research has found that two brain is working in the same way because they can feel the experience of one another. And that we say that is the neural coupling. That means the neural coupling, we are connected through neurons, but also there is another term. We say that the storytellers and story listeners, they are connected through emotional coupling. So mirror neurons stimulates action, emotion, and intention. So creates empathy, relatability, and sense of lived experience. And these are same between the storyteller and story listeners. So essential for persuasion. So people feel the message rather than they just hear it. So that is what is very crucial here. That both the listeners and the storytellers motor cortex, sensory cortex, and frontal cortex, they work in the same way. That's why we also call it that there is a amazing neural ballet taking place between the brains of the storytellers and story listeners.
Okay. Let's just go a couple of steps further, if we may. Sorry, I'm just having a few technical difficulties. Just bear with me a second. The
Not a problem.
nature of things is often a little bit of technical spice to make it interesting. So let's go one stage further. Another concept. There's a lot of concepts in this, and that's why I think this particular interview is important, because it's probably, there are so many concepts. This underpins the whole subject, really. So another major concept that I see is you discuss the change principle in storytelling. The change principle. So how does change inside a story create, how does the change that is indicated by a story create a chemical change inside the brain? I mean, they're separate components. We have a story and we have a brain. But how does one create those chemical changes? What is the connection?
Kalam, it shows that you have read the book actually page to page, so front to back, and I'm very delighted about that. So it's an interesting question, and actually we need to understand the power of storytelling. So first of all, when you talk about change, this is one of the attributes of good storytelling. But when we talk about the chemical changes in our brain, that is the effect of good storytelling. So this is the thing. So change within the story. So if you are a good storyteller, what you will want, you will want to put change as soon as possible, because we respond to change, we pay attention to change. But there are certain conditions that I will unveil in a second. So Kalam, you are walking through the road, living in your own world, thinking about something, and all on a sudden somebody say, shout, Mr. John, Mr. John. So there is a change in the environment. Nothing was happening, but a sound came, Mr. John, Mr. John. So you are unlikely to pay attention, although there is a change. But if somebody shout, Kalam, 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 then you pay attention, because now there is a change into the environment. But this change is a meaningful change to you. It is related to you because Kalam, 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 Kalam is your name. So you now pay attention. So what is important? A good storyteller bring change in subtle in such a way, and that change is relevant to the audience. So the audience pay attention. And this change triggers something in our brain. So there are some chemical changes happen. So What happened in a story? The story world unveils in this way, that we live in a point of equilibrium, whether it is good or bad, but we are somehow point of equilibrium. Then there is a change happen, and then we notice these things. So what happened, the chemical that releases in our brain, now we are going to the effect. So sometime we are curious, so then, or maybe sometime we are in tension, so that means cortisol is a hormone that is released. Then sometime we anticipate something. Okay, maybe you are expecting something, somebody call you from kalam, you might say, okay, probably that news has come, so the dopamine is released in your brain. But sometimes you want to connect with people, so you are looking for connection, so oxytocin release in your brain. So the good storyteller, they play with the character and the plot in such a way that they bring the relevant change, and they bring the audiences into the story world, so that they want to control this change and get back the life that was there before. So this is the way these chemical waves that I mentioned, this or the hormones, the cortisol, dopamine, oxytocin, they keep audiences engaged. So in other words, or maybe the final word, if I want to put it in this way, that the emotional change in the story, emotional change in the story equals to chemical changes in the brain, and that brings us into the story world and keep us there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, so then the next question that follows then is, why does change matter so much for humans, psychologically for humans? I'm thinking in terms of the history making mind and it responding to change. So why does it matter to us, to psychologically?
Okay, so that's actually will lead to another principle, whether you have a plan to ask it or not, but we have actually come. So because there is another principle that we always seek to have control. So human beings want to control, and they want to live in a state of equilibrium. So when there is a change, and that change is relevant to them, they become sort of in a state that they either is the flight or fight. So they either run away or they take action. So maybe that's why you see that sometimes the the some of the brand the commercial, especially the insurance, life insurance commercial, they will say that, okay, what happens if you die, what happens to your family? So now they are bringing some anticipation in the mind that there might be some change. I die, what happens? Then either you disregard, no, or maybe you take action, you buy the insurance. So because another storytelling principle is control, and we want to control our life, we want to be the architect of our life, not leaving it to somebody else. We are the best species in the world, and that's why we want to respond to change, so that we can regain control. Does that make sense to you?
It does. We definitely want to maintain control, and it's something that certainly in the Western world is encouraged, isn't it? I mean, that
Yeah.
individuality, where you want it's not just something that you'd like to do; it's actually viewed into you as the culture. Okay, so then if we go a bit further still, you also talk about something called meaningful dynamic change. So what does that mean, and why is it crucial for effective storytelling? So we've talked about the recipient of the story, but now we're actually talking about the construction of the story and the storyteller. So please tell us this meaningful dynamic change.
Okay, that's a really difficult question and a very good question, Kalam. So it both actually both the side that I'm going to cover. One is the art of storytelling, that is how you tell a story, and another is that why this particular art works. So that we take from neuroscience research, because now consumer behavior and neuroscience, they have intersected, and we can get rich findings that contribute to our understanding of storytelling. So meaningful change and dynamic change here. So as I explained before, that when somebody calls your name, you pay attention because this is meaningful to you. So meaningful change is the change that you create into the story that is relevant and meaningful to your target audience. And then it's also dynamic. So that means it's not only one change. It has to be a couple of changes in the story, because otherwise they will pay attention, they will come into the story world, but they will leave the story world. But your idea is to keep the audience into the story world as well. So that's why we said that the artistic way of developing character is that character will hold hand and bring the customers into the story world, but the artistic plot will keep them. So they will empathize with the character and they will think what happened next. So number of changes. So here we use certain concept that I've taken actually from Robert Mackey. Robert Mackey is one of the leading expert in the world on storytelling. His book, A Story, in 1997, actually is one of the most powerful books in the world on storytelling. So he's saying that you know the change has to be like a charge. And what is that charge? It's emotional charge, and it's dynamic. And then if the change does not changes the emotional charge, then this change is not dynamic and meaningful. So you incorporate a plot. Before the plot, if the say audience was in a state of happy, now after this plot their emotional state has to be changed, and it's binary, so it has to change, otherwise they will not be there. So if they are happy, again they are happy, again they are happy, no, they get bored. So if they are happy, but then you can bring some say crisis here. So you can see that there was a story, actually line written by the J.K. Rowling about two characters, Mr. So-and-so and Mrs. So-and-so. They are perfectly all right, living a fantastic life. What does it mean? So he said that they are perfectly all right, living a fantastic life. It means that something is going to happen and this will puncture their perfect life. So this is what is the thing, that in a story, your changes has to be meaningful, dynamic, but it should change the emotional charge. So happy to sad, say bored to excited, or excited to bored, things like that.
Okay. Okay. So I recall, I think it was Socrates who said the more you think you know, the less you know. And so we get further and further into this by just asking more and more incisive questions. Um, so,
Well, Kalam, let me just give you two or three examples here. Maybe I just got the examples because sometimes, we do not keep it on top of the mind. So, this is another author, Eric Hill, and he wrote a story book for the children. So, it started like this: a spot is a cat. That spot, he hasn't eaten, he suffer. Where can he be? So you see, it's a anticipation of change. So it caught the attention. Then what I said about J.K. Rowling is that Mr. and Mrs. Dursley of number 4 Pivot Drive were proud to say that they were perfectly normal. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. That means this normalness going to be questioned. Then again, another big, very big, the author, which is Charles Dickens. Uh, so it's saying that Marley was dead to begin with. That is the Christmas carol. Marley was dead to begin with. Now there is, like there is a change. And you think that, okay, what happened? Who did this thing? Then another one, very big, which is Jonathan Franzen. He said that the madness of the autumn prairie, cold, front coming through. You could feel it. Something terrible was going to happen. So that's the way story happens. So I think there are a number of examples. Now you can feel it actually that how these big storytellers, how they are actually incorporating change within their story and
Hmm.
getting into their story world.
Yes, so definitely meaningful dynamic change. Um, uh, so what coming back again to the recipient of the story, um, and that recipient identifying with the story, there is another principle in the book of goal orientation. Now, I think goal orientation is something that's used quite extensively in another number of domains. But the question then is that in this particular domain, do does the literature around psychology and neuroscience support the idea that our minds are goal driven in regard to how we process stories?
Yes, yes, absolutely. So you are absolutely correct. Yeah, they do. So all stories, first of all, are driven by a goal, a desire, or a pursuit. So you can see the movie Pursuit of Happiness. Why this is so powerful? Because we all pursue happiness. And the movie articulates very, very well that how the hero is going through these struggles only to be happy. To by how to be happy? By achieving the goal. By achieving the goal. So he wanted to be a successful stockbroker. So that's why when we say the plot sequences, so in the plot sequence, in exposition is the first where you bring the the life in equilibrium in the story world, and then you do a inciting incident. So equilibrium breaks, and the character starts to respond to that inciting incident, and as they are responding to this inciting incident, they emerge with something which is the object of desire. In other words, the goal that they get to get back the control. So that's why goal is pretty much the driving factor of every story. So what psychology says, because you particularly talked about psychology and neuroscience. So psychology says that humans think in terms of intention and motives that relates to goal. But then again, neuroscience is research that unveils that prefrontal cortex tracks the goal progression. So in our brain, the prefrontal cortex, they track that how far we are to achieve our goal. And that's why they keep us engaged within a story. So that's why the storyteller quickly emerge a goal that the character is pursuing, because without goal it's not a story, to be honest with you. So goal orientation creates a structure, creates tension, creates resolution, and obviously sets us on a kind of mission so that we can achieve the goal. Without a goal there is no story, only information. So this is in a nutshell the goal orientation principles in storytelling.
Okay, okay. So goal orientation. Every story has a goal, and then um, at some stage, the recipient of the story embraces the goal and has a sense of control. I suppose that's when they sort of the story's embedded then, really, in the person. We've been talking for 50 minutes now, and and I still have another 5 questions to go.
Okay, yeah,
So,
I'm okay with that.
so we should try and bring it to a close quickly now, because other
Yeah.
people will have perhaps an hour's slot for this. So if I now ask you then, as we're talking about a person and the person having a sense of being in control, which is what they want, a desired state on their part. Well, it's a reassuring state. They would therefore have some sort of whilst it wouldn't be happiness, there would be a sense of being happier. So we therefore are able to introduce some other concepts, which is happiness and outrage as means of telling a story. Or specifically, if you're going to talk about outrage, you're then going to be able to talk about morality, so moral outrage. And if you're going to talk about happiness, then why not couch it in terms of Aristotelian thinking? And so we have this idea of a broader, a bigger happiness. So it's going to be eudaimonic. I always get that pronunciation wrong. Sorry, eudaimonic. That's it. Eudaimonic happiness.
That's fantastic.
So can you explain
Yeah,
how these two are connected within storytelling?
brilliant, Kalam. That's a good, actually, the question that brought us into that stage. So, yeah, I mean, as I said, that we are driven by goals, but we are also uh, driven by standing against the moral outrage. So, what is moral outrage? That means some crime happens when or within a story that violates deeply held values. So, if something violates the deeply held values as human being, we want to stand, we want to protest. You can see that human being, possibly the only species in the world, you can see that they can stand against the gravitational force on two legs. So we don't actually, we just go and move on the four things like our hands and legs. We can stand up. So that means we want to, that is so by nature, we want to stand against injustice. So that's why what happened in a story, the storyteller shows some moral outrage, and that happens most of the cases with the main character. So the main character win the sympathy of the audience. And not only main character stand against this injustice or outrage, but at the same time, they also bring the audience to stand with him. That's kind of the thing. And then you set yourself on a mission. And once you succeed, you feel happiness. That is a different kind of happiness. It's not that you just eat some fruit or you have your good meal and you feel happy. It's far bigger than that. So it arises from meaning, virtue, and purpose. So that happiness is called the eudaimonic happiness. That you have achieved something that shows that you are a human being. You have an identity. You stand uh, against injustice, and you stand for justice. So what the storyteller does, they put the emotional tension and moral tension together. So moral tension and emotional tension. So that's why they create satisfaction, but this is far deeper, far deeper. So powerful narratives, they blend both injustice, and then they create tension, feeling bad, then say trigger action. So we need to take action, and then there is resolution. And that then there is a fulfillment. And this fulfillment again is eudaimonic happiness. So in a nutshell, I tried to explain this thing. I think that makes sense.
Yep. Definitely. That's engaging us very deeply. Look, we're running out of time, so we're going to have to move forward a little bit. And so I was thinking that we would now move to brand strategy.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
So if we take it out of the science and bring it into the practicality, because people will want to be using this from a practical point of view. So now moving to the brand strategy, how can brand communication communicators use the three laws of storytelling to strengthen positioning, meaning, and long-term strategy?
Okay, let's do it quickly. So, and possibly I can answer the battle that is happening in the brain as well, if you want. So, first of all, three laws. One is the relevance, another is the coherence, another is the participation. Relevance, coherence, participation. So, your the story, the brand, that the story they tell, that has to be relevant to their target audience. Because branding, when you talk about branding, it's not about being better, it's about being relevant and differentiation. So you don't
Yeah.
target everybody, you have a particular customer. So relevance is important. Then second is coherence. That means if you are making a promise, if you want to be authentic, then you have to give the same promise, deliver the same promise through all touch points. All touch points. So living the brand within and outside is very, very important. That's why good storytellers, they inspire the employees first, because they know that this employee will be the touch point eventually. The third is the participation. So you need to create a story where the audience can participate and they become the heroes and heroines. So that's why you can see the Airbnb, they have created a platform where the customers are coming and they are sharing their experience. You can see that the Share a Coke campaign. So when Coke was a little bit struggling with their sales, and they started with an idea that they share a Coke. So they made the Coke in a way that you can actually break it and you can share another person. So you can fit it together. So that's participation. But there are also other laws, which is laws of meaning, laws of memory, and laws of emotion. If you integrate these with them, then it becomes more powerful. So that's in a nutshell the three laws.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So we have those three laws shaping the meaning, positioning, and long-term strategy. And I suppose then the final question is, we have a consumer. We have a consumer that is constantly receiving messages about various brands. So there is a battle for the consumer. There's a battle for brands in the consumer
In their
mind.
brain. Yeah.
Yeah. How do the stories shape the battlefield?
Okay, brilliant. So it's two kind of battles. So one is the battle of relevance and another is battle of preference. And battle of preference is difficult to win, but battle of relevance is easy to win if you have a good brand strategy. Because as I told you a couple of minutes ago, that branding is all about differentiation. So different brand positioning so that you can target the right customer. So brand relevance, the battle where you need to create a different category that will be distinctly different from other category. So it is also connected with the blue ocean strategy. So you know that blue ocean strategy, that in the red ocean there is a lot of fighting, a lot of competitions, but you create something, no fighting. Like say you think about say Southwest Airlines, low cost airlines, not many low cost airlines, they are taking you to the secondary airport. So it's like a different competition. So yeah, so that is why you need to position your brand very, very strategically and try to create a category that even do not have any competition. Obviously this is difficult. So if you are thinking about say a sort of a sport utility vehicle, then possibly the Volkswagen, you will not consider Volkswagen. You got my point. So because you are thinking about a sport utility vehicle, but obviously you can consider say Lexus, BMW, or Cadillac. Now once you are considering this thing, so you have got number of brands that are relevant, that are serving your purpose. Now the battle of preference, this is difficult. Now you need to tell a story very nicely, show not only the product differentiation but the identity differentiations. So how it not only just give you the functional benefit, but how you attach with your soul is. So move from a strategy to soul. soul finding, something like that. That's why Apple said that, if you can be a pirate, don't join Navy. Shows that how they are challenging the status quo. So
Mm,
that's kind of incremental innovation. That's why you see that, all the phone, if you see the phone industry, they are continuously changing the version. Because why? Because so that in the preference, the battle, they are still picked up.
mm, mhm. It's a theory on their part. I'm not sure it's borne out by other people, but nevertheless, I think it's a good example of what's going on out there. So, time for you to summarize.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you very much, Kalam. You brought some very, very interesting questions, and so it was far more easier for me to explain. Possibly, if I would make a single video and be able to speak in this that way. So you are a good questioner, and you are a good anchor. I always admire you. So, dear audience, I would just close our today's session. Let me just tell a few more words. Stories, as you understand, are not the ornaments. They are the operating system of human brain. So, if you are hardware, storytelling is your software. So, if you can shape the story, you can shape the perception. If you want to master life, learn to master your story, especially the change of your life and how you gain the control back as a protagonist. Because in your story world, you are a protagonist, always looking for something. Let me give a quotation from Will Storr, who has written The Science of Storytelling, and it has fascinated me. So, Will started the chapter in this way: change is a fact of life, but its terrifying story is a form of play that teaches us how to manage it, to control the world. It's a roller coaster, but not one built from nuts, bolts, and steel rails, but from love, hope, dream, fear, unexpected change, and moral outrage. And what else is there? Because we all know this story really ends. We are going to die, and so is everyone you know. And then there is going to be heat death. All the chains in the universe will cease, and there will be nothing left of anything but an infinite dead, freezing void. So, in the face of that awful truth, the only thing we have to keep us going is our amazing, thrilling roller coaster. So, dear audience, enjoy life, enjoy your roller coaster. But more importantly, when you write your life story, don't give your pen to anyone else. From London, me and my friend Callum Morrison, and you know that London is a city of movement, magic, and emotion because we say that London is where we can experience a piece of the world, as London is known as the melting pot of culture. Bye bye.
Ciao.